Here we have the inside of the Auto-Trail Cheyenne 696G. If we firstly come to the main control panel just above the habitation door, you will see that we have the main 12 volt button just here. So if I now press this, 12 volts off, 12 volt on. Beneath it we then have the water pump. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. Next we have battery selection. So if this is now highlighted as it is, we are charging the vehicle battery from the main supply, and if I press it again, we are now charging the leisure battery from the main supply. The majority of the time you will have it on the leisure battery when you're hooked up. Auxiliary will just turn the outside awning light on and off. All other information is then given via scrolling. So this is our startup screen, as it were. So this is a Sargent EC325 control panel. It will then display the time and the temperature. We can set an event timer, so it's just a countdown timer. Anything that we want to set, we just arrow in. So we can turn it on and off here. And then set the event just here. We can put a wake up alarm on or off. And then set the alarm. And we can also set the clock. And then we return back to the beginning. Beside the main control panel, you will then see we have two switches in the middle here, which are literally just for the lights. They can all then be individually turned on and off on their own switches for these particular spotlights. We then have two dials either side just here. This one here, which says above it Truma Ultra Store, is for the boiler on gas. So if you want to be heating your hot water on gas, firstly make sure that the gas bottle's turned on and you've removed the flue cover from the outside, and then take this outer dial and flick it down to the little flame. A green light will appear and then it will attempt to light. If it fails to light, a red light will appear just here. We then control the temperature of the water on the inner dial just here, 30 being the lowest temperature, right the way up to 70 degrees. If we want to heat hot water on main supply, we just need to come to the wardrobe just here. You'll see that we have a switch just here that says Ultra Store. All we need to do is just flick it down like so, and it will then heat the hot water up on main supply. On main supply, it will heat the water up roughly to about 60 degrees. Beside the controls for the boiler on gas, we then have the controls for the heating on mains electricity. We have an outer dial again and an inner dial. You'll see at the moment that the outer dial is set on O for off. I can now flick it up, which will mean that we're now running the mains on main supply using 2 kilowatts for the heating. If I go back to off again, we can drop it down to a very low 500 watts, which is extremely handy if you're on a low amp site to stop yourselves from tripping. And then somewhere in the middle, 1 kilowatt. We then control the temperature of the heating on the inner dial just here, with 1 being the coolest setting and 9 being the hottest. When using the heating on electric, you do need to make sure that the isolator switch is on inside the wardrobe. If this is turned off, this will not operate. If we now remove the cover just here, you can actually see the top of the boiler itself just here. We've also have the water pump just here. To drain the boiler down for winterization, there is a little yellow lever just down there. You'll see that it's currently in the flapped over position, holding water into the boiler. To drain the boiler of water, just flip the lever so it's pointing directly up at you, and then the water will begin to drain out of the boiler. If you are fully drained down for winter, it's always also advisable, once you've flapped that lever up, to then go around the rest of the van and open up all of the taps, because this will then release all of the airlocks in the system, making it drain down much better. When it comes to filling it back up again, just flap the yellow lever back over into the position that it's in at the moment. Fill up your fresh water tank, turn your water pump on, and then I usually personally then turn my taps to hot first. They'll cough and splutter as they force the air out. Once they're running freely like it is now, turn to cold, repeat the process, and then close, and then the system will then fully reprime itself back up again. If we are going to be using the heater on gas, we just need to come to the dial just here. All we do is we just turn the dial and it will begin to tick, and then all we then need to do is hold it down, and once the ticking stops, it's usually a good indication that the fire has lit. We can also peer for the pilot light, as you can see just there. As soon as you let go, you can usually hear it whoosh as well. And then we just control the temperature by just turning the dial on the top. Regardless whether we're using the heating on mains or gas, this little dial here just controls the circulation fan for the heating system, allowing you to blow warm air out of all the air ducts around the motorhome. We have on and off just here, so if I now slide this across to this position just here, I've now turned the circulation fan on, and then we control the fan speed just here. A will not work in this particular motorhome. It stands for automatic, but you do have to have another thermostat added. If you ever try to light on gas and you can't hear the ticking noise, it may just mean that the battery needs replacing. And if we just pop down here, there's basically a little cover underneath just there. You can see it, just slide it up, and underneath there is an AA battery. Next we have the fridge. The fridge is currently in the off position just here. To use it on gas, just flick to this one here. When it's ignited, you'll have a solid orange light like we have at the moment. If it fails to light, it will just flash to let you know. Next we have main supply with the little picture of the 2-pin plug. And then lastly, we have 12 volt maintain for when we're driving. This will only work when the engine is running, and will keep the fridge cold whilst on the move. Beside it, in the cupboard just here, we have all the gas isolation taps for the van. They are all in the on position and can stay like this. I always say if you smell gas in the van, go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. Next we have the hob. So we have the electric hot plate that works again on mains electricity and operates just here. Red light will come on to let you know it's in operation. Everything else is gas, so it's just a matter of pushing, twisting and pressing the igniter. Beneath it we have the grill, and then lastly the oven. Beneath the oven we have storage, but also just tucked up there we just have the isolator switch for the electric hot plate. If we now come to the overhead locker, just here we have the consumer unit. So we have the 12 volt fuses all labelled up just here, so if something's not working on 12 volt, just check to see whether or not you've blown a fuse. We then have the main strip switches just here, so we have the 3 individual MCBs, the main RCD and the test button just here. Battery charger on and off just here. We want it on, so when we're hooked up to the main supply we're charging the batteries. And this one here will illuminate to let you know if you have reverse polarity connected to the motorhome. You may find this from time to time on some European sites. In the centre of the consumer unit just here you'll see a little green light on, and that's just letting you know that the solar panel is operating, as the solar regulator is also built into this consumer unit. Behind the driver's seat just down here there are a few more 12 volt fuses. Again, they are more for bits and bobs on the outside of the motorhome, like marker lights, tow electrics, etc. If we now go into the other overhead locker beside the consumer unit, we have in here the television aerial just here. So the mast sits there, and then tucked right up the top here we have the digital amplifier. Just make sure it's on, as it is at the moment just here. And then if we're going to use the television aerial we need to raise it. So what we need to do is just loosen the collar just here, raise the mast up and get it into the position that we require, and then lock in. We can turn the tail just here and flip the aerial from the horizontal position into the vertical if we do need to do additional tuning. If we're going to be using the front monitor as a television, we just need to press the button up here to drop the monitor down. We then need to turn the monitor on just here with the power button. We get sound through the speakers for the radio, so we also need to turn the stereo on just here. We need to flick it out of radio by pressing the SRC button just here, and we need to have it on line in. We also just need to make sure that both of these switches are on either side. They can basically stay on just as they are. And then you'll also see just here you have DVD and TV. If you're going to be using it just for television, you need to have it on the TV. If you're going to be using a DVD, flick it to the DVD point there and then pop a DVD in the CD slot. Next, if I get the little remote control just here, I can now turn the little box on just here. And then we have the TV. You'll see I've already tuned this in. Volume control just here. Don't point it at the screen, you do need to point it at the little box just here. If you arrive in a location and you have no TV signal, you will need to retune it in. So all you need to do is just press the menu button just here. It will then pull up a little main menu just here. Use your arrow keys to move down to the point that says tuning. Then hit OK. Go to automatic search. And then hit OK again. And it will then retune in. Always make sure that before you leave that the aerial is then put back down again. Above my head here we have the Omnivent fan. To operate, wind the roof vent up just here. We then have variable fan speed just here. And then we have fan direction just here. Make sure that the roof vent is then down again for travel. As we move to the rear, we have the shower just here. Do make sure that the shower screen is clipped back for travel. If we now move into the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here. So the bowl does swivel about. To open to the cassette, slide the lever across just here. To flush, press the button just here. Level indicator just here to let you know when the cassette needs emptying. And then close back up again. If you've left this open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you feel resistance, just make sure that nobody's left this open. We then have a basin just here. Light switch just here. Access to the garage just at this point here. And then the rear bed. If I just swing back round again, you will see that there is a low level light just here. A lot of people struggle to find the light switch for this particular one. That is just tucked just up here.